The silent guardian, the Discovery Commander Vex Thorn, stood on the bridge of the Nexarian dreadnought's Sovereign's Edge, watching the blue marble of Earth rotate slowly on the main display. The planet looked peaceful, almost inviting, with its swirling white clouds and vast blue oceans. But Vex had learned long ago that appearances in space were often deadly. The Nexarian Empire had ruled over 200 star systems for 3,000 years. They had conquered species far more advanced than these humans appeared to be. Their technology was ancient, their fleets massive, their will unbreakable. When they found new worlds, the pattern was always the same: arrive, assess, demand, submission, and integrate. Simple and effective. "Initial scans complete, Commander," reported Lieutenant Zara, her forearms dancing across the sensor controls. With practiced efficiency, the Nexarian's scaled skin reflected the bridge's blue lighting. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level appears primitive. No visible space defenses, no orbital platforms or defensive satellites. Vex nodded, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Standard procedure then. Send the integration message." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, translated into what their computers identified as the dominant languages of Earth. It was the same message the Empire had sent to countless worlds: submit to Nexarian rule and prosper, or face the consequences of resistance. The response came faster than expected. A single transmission, broadcast on a frequency that shouldn't have been possible for a primitive civilization to access. The message was simple, direct, and spoke in perfect "Stay away from Earth." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Zara's eyes widened. "Commander, how do they know our language?" Vex studied the display, his tactical mind already working. "Run deep scans, full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about their capabilities." But before the scans could begin, another message arrived. This time, it included a visual. A human woman appeared on the screen, middle-aged, with graying hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with no visible rank insignia. "I am Director Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Command," she said calmly. "We have issued our only warning: stay away from Earth. We do not wish conflict, but we are prepared for it." The transmission ended. "The test arrogant primitives," snarled Captain Corvex from the secondary bridge. "Commander, request permission to demonstrate the Empire's power." Vex held up a scaled hand. "Patience, Captain. Something feels wrong about this." He had survived countless battles by trusting his instincts, and right now, every instinct was screaming danger. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Zara, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is ... different." A new voice filled the bridge, male this time, with a slight accent Vex couldn't place. "Commander Vex Thorn of the Sovereign's Edge, born on Nexus Prime 47 standard years ago, graduate of the Imperial War College, veteran of the Zalani campaign. Favorite food: roasted kelp from your home continent's eastern shores." The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. This level of detailed information should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. The voice continued: "Your ship carries 1,200 crew members. Your weapons systems are Class A plasma cannons with a maximum effective range of 50,000 kilometers. Your shields can withstand approximately 12 direct hits from equivalent weapons before failing." "How do they know this?" whispered Zara. Vex's blood ran cold. "Communications, send word to the fleet. Emergency protocols." But the human voice wasn't finished. We know these things because we have been watching. Not just your ship, Commander Thorn, but your entire empire, for longer than you might imagine. The Watchers on Earth, Captain Marcus Reed, sat in a facility that didn't officially exist. Buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado Rockies, the walls were lined with displays showing star maps, ship movements, and communication intercepts from across the galaxy. This was Deep Space Command, humanity's eye on the universe. Director Chen, we have confirmation, Marcus reported through his headset. The Nexarians have taken the bait. Commander Thon is requesting backup from his fleet. Sarah? Chun's voice crackled through the speakers. Good. How long have we been monitoring their expansion? 43 years, ma'am. Ever since they conquered the Helix Nebula systems, we've had observation posts tracking their movements, their technology, their culture, their predictable. Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing the Nexarian Empire's territory. Scattered throughout it were hundreds of tiny red dots, invisible to Nexarian sensors. Our stealth stations have been feeding us intelligence for decades. We know their ship designs, their battle tactics, their supply routes. We even know what they had for breakfast. The irony wasn't lost on him. While the Nexarians saw humans as primitive, humanity had been playing a much longer game. Earth's first deep space missions hadn't been about exploration, they had been about survival. When humanity detected the Nexarian Empire's expansion, they realized confrontation was inevitable, so they prepared. Stealth technology was our first breakthrough, Marcus continued, speaking to the monitoring team. While they were building bigger guns, we were learning to disappear. Phase shift, cloaking, quantum dampening, gravitational masking. By the time they found us, we had been invisible in their space for nearly half a century. On his screens, Marcus watched as more Nexarian ships jumped into Earth's solar system. 12 heavy cruisers, 4 battleships, and the flagship Sovereign's Edge, a formidable force by anyone's standards. Time to show them what they're really dealing with. Sarah's voice commanded, the revelation back on the Sovereign's Edge. Commander Vex was beginning to understand that his assumptions about humanity had been catastrophically wrong. His sensors showed no human ships, no defensive installations, nothing but empty space around Earth. Yet somehow, his scout vessels were vanishing. "Sir," Lieutenant Zara called out, her voice tight with confusion, "we just lost contact with Silent Hunter. It was investigating the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Any distress signal? Nothing. One moment it was there, the next ... gone." Before Vex could respond, another ship disappeared. Then another. His carefully arranged fleet was being picked apart by an invisible enemy. "All ships, defensive formation," he ordered. "Shields up, weapons hot." The human voice returned, calm, and almost sympathetic. "Commander, you're fighting shadows. Our ships don't appear on your sensors because they exist slightly outside normal spacetime. Think of it as existing in the spaces between atoms." On the main screen, space began to shimmer, slowly. Like ghosts becoming solid, human ships began to appear. They were unlike anything in Vex's experience. Sleek, angular vessels that seemed to bend light around them. They moved with impossible grace, defying the normal physics of space combat. "Phase shift technology," the human voice explained. "We learned it from studying quantum mechanics and dimensional theory. While your empire conquered through brute force, we conquered the laws of physics themselves." Vex counted at least 30 human ships, each one roughly the size of his battleships, but moving with the speed and agility of fighters. They formed a perfect sphere around his fleet, positioned with mathematical precision. We could have destroyed your entire fleet before you even knew we were here, the voice continued. But we preferred dialogue to destruction. Hence, our original message: stay away from Earth. The choice director, Sarah Chen, stood in Earth's orbital command station, hidden in the shadow of the moon. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the Nexarian fleet, surrounded and outmaneuvered by humanity's phase-shifted vessels. Open a channel to their flagship, she ordered. Commander Vex appeared on her screen, his reptilian features showing a mixture of respect and fear. She could see the tactical displays behind him, showing his ship's hopeless position. Commander Thorn, she said simply, you have a choice. You can try to fight us and lose your entire fleet. Or you can listen to our message and leave in peace. What do you want? Vex asked, his military bearing still intact despite the circumstances. Nothing, Sarah replied. We want nothing from your empire. We don't want your territory, your resources, or your submission. We simply want to be left alone. Earth is not part of the galactic community because we choose not to be. But why? The question came from genuine curiosity now, not military necessity. Sarah gestured to Earth, visible in the background. Because we learned something your empire never did. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it. We could have revealed ourselves decades ago, could have challenged your expansion, could have conquered worlds of our own. Instead, we chose to watch, to learn, and to prepare. She paused, letting her words sink in. Your empire rules through fear and conquest. We rule through choice and preparation. You demand submission. We ask only to be left alone. The understanding, on the bridge of the Sovereign's edge, Vex found himself in a position he had never experienced. Complete tactical defeat without a shot being fired. His crew looked to him for orders, but what orders could he give? The humans had demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything in the Empire's arsenal. Your stealth technology, he said slowly. How long have you possessed it? The human woman smiled slightly. We began development shortly after we detected your Empire's first expansion beyond the Nexus system. That was 87 years ago, Commander, 87 years. Nearly a full Nexarian lifetime of preparation. While the Empire had been focused on conquest, humanity had been focused on survival. And in that focus, they had become something unprecedented. We have monitoring stations throughout your territory, Sarah continued. Not to spy for conquest, but to watch for threats to Earth. We know when your fleets move, when new species join your empire, when technologies are developed. We know because we have to know. Vex's tactical mind was reeling. The resources required for such an operation are considerable, Sarah agreed, but less than the resources required to build a conquering fleet. We invested in intelligence rather than firepower, in technology rather than territory. It seems to have been the right choice. The silence stretched across space as Vex considered his options. He could attempt to fight, but the tactical situation was hopeless. His ships were surrounded by an enemy that could appear and disappear at will, that had been studying Nexarian tactics for decades, that had turned the art of war into a science. If I return to Nexus Prime with this report, he said finally, the High Command will not believe it. They will send a larger fleet. Then we will deal with a larger fleet, Sarah replied calmly. We have been preparing for that possibility as well. The message as the Nexarian fleet prepared to leave Earth's solar system. Vex found himself transmitting a message he never thought he would send. The Nexarians were retreating not because they were defeated in battle, but because they had encountered something entirely outside their understanding of warfare. "This is Commander Vexthorn to Nexarian High Command." He spoke into the communications array. "Mission status, withdrawn. Earth is to be classified as a protected system. All Nexarian vessels are ordered to maintain a minimum distance of 10 light-years from the Sol system." He paused, knowing his next words would reshape the Empire's understanding of the galaxy. The humans of Earth possess technology and capabilities far exceeding our initial assessment. They have been monitoring Empire activities for nearly a century. They request only to be left alone, but possess the means to enforce that request against any force we might deploy. The transmission ended, and Vex looked once more at the blue world that had humbled the mighty Nexarian Empire as his fleet jumped to hyperspace. The human ships faded back into invisibility, becoming one with the quantum foam that surrounded normal space. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, looking as peaceful and defenseless as when they had first arrived. But Vex now knew the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones you never saw coming. And sometimes the greatest victory was knowing when not to fight at all. The single human message echoed in his mind as space folded around his retreating fleet. Stay away. From Earth, it was not a threat or a boast. It was simply a fact, as immutable as the laws of physics themselves. Earth would remain free, not because it was weak, but because it was strong enough to choose its own path among the stars. The price of ignorance, disbelief. 3 months after Commander Vexthorn's return to Nexus Prime, the Imperial War Council convened in emergency session. The great circular chamber buzzed with angry voices and clicking mandibles as military leaders from across the Empire gathered to hear Vex's impossible report. Admiral Kresh Vola, Supreme Fleet Commander of the Nexarian Empire, towered over the assembly. His battle-scarred carapace gleamed under the chamber's harsh lights, and his 6 eyes fixed on Vex with undisguised contempt. "You would have us believe," Admiral Kresh's voice boomed across the chamber, "that a single primitive world forced the entire 7th Fleet to retreat without firing a shot." Vex stood calmly in the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by the Empire's most powerful military minds. "Admiral, I have submitted my full tactical analysis. The humans possess technology that renders our conventional weapons and sensors useless, phase-shifting," scoffed General Morax. His cybernetic implants worry as he accessed tactical databases. "Theoretical nonsense. If such technology existed, why haven't we developed it?" "Because we never needed to hide," Vex replied. "We conquered through superior firepower. The humans chose a different path." Admiral Kresh slammed his primary fist onto the council table. "I will not accept that primitives who barely crawled out of their gravity well could challenge the Empire's might. Prepare the 3rd War Fleet. We will show these humans the true meaning of Nexarian power." The preparation on Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the Strategic Defense Analysis Center, watching holographic displays that showed Nexarian fleet movements. Across the galaxy, the underground facility hummed with quiet activity as hundreds of analysts processed intelligence from humanity's network of hidden observation posts. "They're mobilizing everything," she reported to General Jake Morrison, who studied the tactical displays with seasoned eyes. 150 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. Admiral Kresh is commanding personally. General Morrison nodded grimly. "He's their best tactical mind. Conquered the Keller systems single-handedly. This won't be like dealing with..." Commander Thorn, Elena pulled up a detailed analysis of Nexarian battle doctrine. Kresh believes in overwhelming force. He'll try to break our defenses with a massive assault, then follow up with systematic destruction of Earth's military infrastructure. He's thinking conventionally, Morrison replied. That's his weakness. Sarah, are you monitoring, Director? Sarah Chen's voice came through the communication system. I'm here, Jake. Elena's analysis matches our projections. Kresh will expect a traditional defense. We need to show him something he's never seen before. Morrison activated a secure channel. All stations implement Protocol 7. Authorization, Morrison Delta 7. Across the galaxy, at dozens of hidden monitoring posts, human operatives received the signal. For nearly 50 years, they had been passive observers, gathering intelligence and remaining invisible. Now, for the first time, they would act. The infiltration station, Observer 7, hung in the darkness between stars, its hull designed to mimic a piece of space debris. Inside, Captain Lisa Park had spent 12 years watching Nexarian supply convoys pass through the Helix Junction, one of the Empire's most important trade routes. Protocol 7 confirmed. She spoke into her communication array. Beginning. Active phase. Park's team had been preparing for this day since the station's construction. Every Nexarian ship that passed through the junction was scanned, catalogued, and mapped. More importantly, during routine maintenance stops, Park's operatives had installed quantum infiltrators into the ship's computer systems. The infiltrators were quantum-scale devices, existing partially outside normal spacetime like humanity's phase shift technology. They could observe and even interact with computer systems without being detected by conventional security scans. Target priority list is uploading now, Park announced to her team. Military command vessels first, then supply ships, then civilian transports. We want confusion, not casualties. Across Nexarian space, similar operations began simultaneously. At the Corvin shipyards, Station Observer 12 activated infiltrators in the main production computers. At the Nexus Prime communication relay, Observer 3 began feeding false data into the Empire's military networks. The humans had learned long ago that the most effective way to defeat a superior enemy was not to fight them directly, but to turn their own systems against them. The malfunctioned Admiral Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Empire's Wrath, as his war fleet assembled in the Proxima staging area. 150 ships, the largest military force the Empire had deployed in 2 centuries, prepared for the jump to Earth. All vessels report ready, Admiral, announced his communications officer, Lieutenant Commander Dex. Fleet formation. Optimal. Weapons, systems, charged. Excellent, Kresh replied, his 6 eyes gleaming with anticipation. Signal all ships. We jump in 5 minutes. But as the countdown reached 60 seconds, something went wrong. Admiral Dex called out, confusion evident in his voice. I'm receiving reports of system malfunctions across the fleet. Navigation computers are showing conflicting jump coordinates. Kresh's mandibles clicked impatiently. Engineering issue. Compensate and proceed. Sir, it's not just navigation. Weapon systems are cycling through diagnostic routines. Shield generators are showing phantom power fluctuations. It's happening on every ship. Before Kresh could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered. The main tactical display went dark, then returned showing impossible data, ship positions that made no sense, power levels that defied physics, and communication channels filled with static. Report, Kresh roared. His chief engineer, a nervous Nexarian named Vex scurried onto the bridge. "Admiral, we're experiencing cascade failures in multiple systems. The computer networks are behaving erratically. It's almost as if what? As if someone is inside our systems, sir, watching, changing things." The revelation. Dr. Alina Vasquez watched the infiltration proceed from Earth's command center. On her screens, readouts from dozens of human operatives showed the systematic disruption of the Nexarian war fleet. "Quantum infiltrators are active across 93% of their vessels," she reported. "We're inducing controlled malfunctions in non-critical systems. No permanent damage, no casualties, just enough to demonstrate our reach." General Morrison leaned over her shoulder, watching the data flow. "How are they reacting?" "Confusion, primarily. Admiral Kresh is trying to maintain fleet integrity, but his ships are reporting conflicting information. Navigation systems are particularly affected. On the main display, they could see the Nexarian fleet's formation beginning to drift apart as individual ships struggled with their compromised systems. Some vessels were firing attitude thrusters randomly, others were caught in diagnostic loops that prevented their weapons from charging properly. "Phase 2, Morrison ordered. "Alina, activate the deep infiltrators." This was the part of the plan that even Alina found unsettling. The deep infiltrators weren't just monitoring devices. They were quantum entities that could interface directly with computer systems, essentially becoming part of the ship's operating system. "Deep infiltrators active," Alina reported. "We now have administrative access to their fleet network." Morrison activated his communication system. "Sarah, we're ready for contact." The message Admiral Kresh was shouting orders when every screen on every ship in his fleet simultaneously displayed the same image. A human woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes. "Admiral Vola," Director Sarah Chen said calmly. "This is Director Chen of Earth Defense Command. I believe we need to talk." Kresh's 6 eyes widened in shock. The communication was coming through his own ship's internal systems, bypassing all external channels and security protocols. "Impossible," he whispered. Sarah continued as if she had heard him. "What you're experiencing is a demonstration of our infiltration capabilities. For the past 50 years, we have been installing quantum observers in your ships, your space stations, and your computer networks." The implications hit Kresh like a physical blow. If the humans could access his fleet's systems, they could access anything in the Empire. "Every ship you've built, every station you've constructed, every computer network you've established," Sarah explained. "We've been watching, learning, preparing." On Kresh's tactical display, new information began appearing. Detailed sketches of Nexarian ships, complete tactical analyses of their fleet formations, even personal files on individual crew members. Information that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. "How long?" Kresh asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Since your expansion into the Helix Nebula," Sarah replied. "We detected your empire's growth and realized that eventual contact was inevitable. So we did what humans do best. We adapted." The awakening across the Nexarian fleet, crew members stared at their displays in growing horror. The humans weren't just accessing their current systems. They were revealing the true scope of their infiltration. On the bridge of the cruiser Stellar Dominance, Captain Corex watched as his computer displayed a complete record of his ship's activities for the past 15 years. Every mission, every battle, every routine patrol had been observed and catalogued by invisible human watchers. "They've been watching us," he whispered to his first officer. "All this time, they've been watching. Similar realizations were occurring throughout the fleet. The humans hadn't just developed superior technology, they had turned the Empire's own expansion against itself. Every conquered world had become a potential observation post, every new ship a source of intelligence, every technological advance an opportunity for infiltration. Admiral Kresh felt something he had never experienced in his long military career: helplessness. The Empire's greatest strength, its vast size and technological base, had been turned into its greatest vulnerability. "You could have destroyed us at any time," he said. Finally understanding the true scope of humanity's capabilities, Sarah nodded. "We could have crashed your ships, collapsed your space stations, even interfered with your planetary infrastructure. But destruction was never our goal. Then what do you want?" "The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. To be left alone." The Price General Morrison stood beside Alina in the command center, watching as the Nexarian fleet struggled with its compromised systems. "Show them the colony data," he ordered. Alina activated a new set of displays. On every Nexarian ship, screens filled with information about human infiltration throughout the Empire, hidden observation posts in asteroid fields, quantum listeners attached to communication relays, deep cover human agents living ordinary lives on Nexarian colony worlds. "My God," whispered Admiral Kresh as the data flooded his displays. "You're everywhere we had to be," Sarah explained. "Your Empire's expansion threatened not just Earth, but the principle that worlds should be free to choose their own destiny. So we made sure we could monitor that expansion." The displays showed the true extent of humanity's hidden network. Observation posts in 47 systems, infiltrators in 63% of the Empire's computer networks, human agents in positions throughout Nexarian society, from low-level technicians to high-ranking officials. "The Empire prides itself on knowing everything about its territory," Sarah continued. "But for 50 years, we have known more about your Empire than you do." Kresh stared at the data, his military mind processing the implications. If the humans could monitor everything, they could predict everything. Military movements, resource allocation, technological development, even political decisions. "You've been playing a game we didn't even know existed," he said finally. "Yes," Sarah agreed, "and now you understand the rules." The choices Admiral Kresh's fleet hung helpless in space, their systems compromised and their tactics obsolete. He faced the same choice that Commander Vex had faced 3 months earlier. But this time, the stakes were higher, and the demonstration of human capabilities had been far more comprehensive. "Restore our systems," he demanded. "Certainly," Sarah replied. Immediately, the Nexarian ship's computers returned to normal operation. Weapons came online, shields stabilized, navigation systems displayed accurate coordinates. It was as if the malfunctions had never occurred. The message was clear: humanity could disrupt the Empire's systems at will, but they chose not to. Admiral Sarah said, her voice taking on a more formal tone, "You now understand what Commander Thorne tried to explain to your High Command. Humanity possesses capabilities that make traditional military action obsolete. We could have revealed ourselves decades ago and challenged your expansion directly. Instead, we chose to remain hidden and watch." Kresh found himself in the unprecedented position of commanding a fleet that was technologically inferior to its enemy. Every tactical doctrine he knew assumed that the Empire held the technological advantage. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you return to Nexus Prime and deliver the same message Commander Thorne delivered. Earth is to be left alone. Any The vessel that enters our solar system will be disabled and escorted out. Any attempt to interfere with our operations will be met with proportional response. She paused, letting her words sink in. But Admiral, understand this. We do not want to be your enemy. We simply want to exist in peace. The choice of whether that happens is yours. The returners, the Nexarian warfleet, prepared to jump back to Empire space. Admiral Kresh transmitted a message that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. This is Admiral Kreshvoller to Nexarian High Command. The Third Warfleet is returning to base. Earth system is to be designated as forbidden territory. All military operations in the Sol system are suspended indefinitely. He paused, knowing that his next words would end his military career. The humans of Earth possess technology and intelligence capabilities far exceeding our own. They have been monitoring Empire activities for 5 decades. They have infiltrated our computer networks, our ships, and our infrastructure. They could have destroyed the Empire at any time, but chose not to. The admission was painful for a warrior who had never known defeat. But Kresh had learned something that few military commanders ever did. Sometimes the greatest victory was recognizing when you were outmatched. The Empire's expansion is hereby suspended, pending a complete reassessment of our technological capabilities and strategic position. Admiral Kreshvoller, commanding as his fleet jumped into hyperspace, Kresh looked back at the peaceful blue world that had twice humbled the mighty Nexarian Empire. Earth continued its slow rotation, looking as defenseless as ever, but he now knew the truth. Humanity had spent 50 years turning the Empire's greatest strength against itself. They had proven that intelligence and patience could defeat brute force and aggression. They had demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful weapon was the one your enemy never saw coming. The single message echoed in his mind as space folded around his retreating fleet. Stay away from Earth. It was not a request or a threat. It was simply a fact, backed by capabilities that made resistance futile. Earth would remain free, and the galaxy would be a different place because of it.